Start a game. Well, we're not starting a game. We're gonna fool around with the Butcher and the Blade theme song. That is. Start from the top here. No. What's up, everybody? I am new to this, and I'm looking to see if I'm actually live here. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm still kind of figuring this out as I go. Already stuff looks different, so I'm gonna try to do this like I'm supposed to. I just went live and everything looks completely different from what I had before, so I tested it and it let me see, add. Did I add a new? No, I don't want to add that. Let's see. Let's try that. We have the webcam. Image. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So we're going to pull up the Butcher and the Blade theme. Now keep in mind, right, I haven't opened up this session. I opened it up a few minutes ago, but I haven't opened up this session since late 2019. All right, so I have no idea where my head was at in the processes of mixing. But we'll address that on a different day and time. So let's open this up. And I'm still figuring out the audio portion of it. So for right now, you're just going to hear like in-room sound. So if we look at the Butcher and the Blade theme in itself, it's actually a fairly basic theme, and I actually added that earlier just to kind of test it out. You've got your drum tracks, you've got quad guitar tracking, guitar solo, bass, and that's it for the band thing. So there was no real sound effects. You have the Butcher and the Blade voice right at the top, and you have some air horns. So we'll kind of go through real quick and listen to each one. I'll kind of pull this up a little bit. I'm in Studio One, in case anybody's wondering. Let's see. The Butcher and the Blade. So I'm going to do that real quick. Hang on. I'm going to do this because I know. All right. That way I feel like I'm talking to you and I can see what I'm doing at the same time. So we'll go back, look at the simple air horns in itself. So we had these. Right. Then we had the vocal sting at the top. The Butcher and the Blade. And basically I recorded that twice and then just chopped it up a little bit. The Butcher. The Butcher. And that's kind of like a vocal drop. I just dropped the key, transposed it down. I didn't really understand how to even put time signature changes in Studio One when I recorded this. So basically what I did is I kept the tempo at 140 for the entire thing, and then just changed up the sections. So you've got a straight 4/4 double kick, and I'm going to solo these out. And I kept it at 140, and then just kind of switched up the beat to like a triplet type. So you're still in the 140, it's just a different count. Maybe it was, I'm not sure. And then I sped the tempo up. So when I originally recorded these drums, I used the Native Instruments machine, which is back here on this desk. I don't use it anymore, just because I have so much accessible to me within Studio One now. I have an electronic drum kit over here. I don't use the drum kit anymore. I can play on it, but I don't use it. I have the machine. I just got into my workflow is just kind of in the grid, like painting in the grid, and we'll go through all of that. So I wanted to kind of show you that process. So if we come over here, and let's say you're in a pinch and you have to record drum tracks very quickly. It's kind of a pain to have to go over to the kit, learn, you have to rehearse, you got to get it right, and then you have to record it, then you have to bounce it, then you have to quantize it, and you got to do all this other kind of stuff. So it just became easier for me to pull open Contact. And let's see, I'll come up to the top just to line it up with the drum kit, right? So we pull up Contact. I had it way over here. And let's go with Mixwave. So I'm really big on Mixwave right now. Their kits out of the box are so well mixed and so well just assembled. This is the Mario de Plantier Gajira kit. So this is basically what you have here. And you have your drum settings. You can go in and you can kind of set how you want. You can set the room how you want with reverb and things like that. You can set your cymbals. If you're in a pinch, they've done such a fine job of evening out this kit that you could actually record this kit, bounce it, and just EQ it as one single track. If you're in a rush and you got to get something done quickly, and then you can go back and separate the tracks, the individual kick, snares, toms, and all that kind of stuff. So just for the sake of this, we're going to go into kit view, and then I just paint. So we highlight a section. I'm going to start back up here right at the start of the track, and I'm going to solo out the drums. There's a bunch of compression and EQ and all this stuff, and this is very basic in the mix process back when I was just kind of getting my feet wet with Studio One. We'll focus on that another time. I want to focus on putting this drum track together. It's actually a lot simpler than you might think. So we'll play it again one more time, just the drum track soloed out itself. So we'll go with that, and it's, again, you're going to be listening to the sound in-house. I haven't really figured out the audio direct to capture. I was trying to mess with it last night and this morning, and it was acting really bad. So I just decided, thank you for that. I just decided to go ahead and just use in-house speakers for today. Once I get that dialed in, then we'll kind of go in. So if you look at your piano roll here, this is your drum kit. So this is basically a drum kit or a Native Instruments machine just put to a piano roll. And I actually have that here as well. I have a MIDI controller here. But just for me, this is kind of what I do. This type of metal drumming, I just go full velocity, full volume on. You're not going to have a lot of mid-range, mid-volume, or low to high dynamics in something like this. It's just kind of hard-hitting. So I've got the quantization set to 1/16. We'll talk about that versus live drumming also in a minute. So let's look at already you've got this. So I'm gonna mute these real quick so we can focus on the actual track itself. That's the whole first riff. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. So we know that the second riff is going to be all double kick. So you just line it up, double it up. Dun, 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 dun. The snare is going to be right there. All right. So, and when I've recorded this in the Native Instruments machine back in the day, I would never put the kick under the snare just because it would overpower in the machine, and I never really had time to figure that whole thing out. But with this, they have it mixed in a way to where it sounds natural. It doesn't sound like it's overpowered, so you can put it back in there. All right, so then you take your cymbals. So you got to remember, when a drummer is actually performing live, their first hit, they're going to hit two cymbals at one time. So it's a so you think about that in terms of how the hits are. You can manipulate the volume a little bit if you want on each one. You can kind of hear. That's literally what that is. So you take that, you double it up. And basically what I'm doing is just highlighting and hitting the D for duplicate. And at the end of the measure, you can throw a fill in there if you want to. So change the double kicks to the double snare. There you go. And that's that whole. You do it again, and at the end of the 8, you can add a drum fill. Take these out. You always want to remember to remove your cymbals, because people aren't hitting cymbals and doing drum fills at the same time, right? So let me add these drums back in here. That's why that wasn't there. So I'll end up doing that sometimes too, doing the wrong thing. So let's see. That's what I wanted to do. So we kind of add. Double hit, double kick, double hit. Go back to 17. That's it right there. So that's literally the first minute and a half of the drum tracks for Butcher and the Blade. And we can take it and let's see. View and in here. Unmute. Now these are the original. You can hear all the compression and everything on it. So, and then that loops there. So that's literally the entire first section. And one of the things that I wanted to say, a lot of people have complaints about looping and about playing things that are too simple. You have to remember, when you're creating theme music, especially with the drums, you're just laying a foundation. So the drums don't tell the entire story. If you try to do too much within the drum kit itself, you tend to overpower the rest of the mix, whether it's metal, whether it's orchestral, whether it's hip hop. Sometimes hip hop calls for the beats to be out front, but there's other times that I like to kind of pull the beat back just a tad so it doesn't overpower the rest of the mix. Hip hop producers love to have the kick and the snare right up front and overtake everything else. And in some cases, if they had their way, the kick and the snare would actually overpower the vocalist. And I've actually seen that happen in a few, quite a few actually. We go back again, and if I wanted to bounce this, let's say again, like if I'm in a rush, rather than export each individual line like a kick and separate track, separating the tracks, I can actually bounce this entire section. And I'm clipping, so I'm going to try this again. I'm just going to go back to a normal view, pull the volume back, bounce this, and then what I'll do is I'll normalize it so it increases the volume a little bit, but it doesn't clip it. So I can actually take this. I mean, you can hear how clean that is just by itself. And everything is kind of balanced. That's the word I was looking for, balance. If I wanted to go in and route it out to a bus, go in and just throw an EQ on there, just to kind of pump it up a little bit. And if I wanted to throw a compressor on there, I can do that as well. And a lot of times what I'll do to try to capture everything, mainly on the final bus, like the mix bus, I'll turn everything up. I'll set the attack at 30, the release on auto, the ratio up, the rate all the way up. And then I'll try to keep everything hovering around 4. Because it captures everything. It doesn't cut anything out. So if you're trying to bring all the sound up and kind of give that live, loud kind of sound, rather than having it pop and then go away, you can kind of fill the entire space up. Now, in certain instances, people like to have the cymbals a little bit more up front, louder. It's whatever your preference is. So that's that for the first part of the Butcher and the Blade theme. So I'll start it from the top one more time just so you can kind of hear those. Quad tracking on the guitars, of course. I always like to quad track. What I typically try to do is, and I'll just kind of show this real quick. One hard left, one hard right, and then another right around the upper 70s, L and R. You do that because you want the wall of sound to come from the sides, and when you're mixing, you can actually saturate it to give it more space and give it more edge in the mixing phase. So this is L and R by itself. So, I mean, you can hear right out of the gate, I mean, with no other effects on there except an EQ and a little bit of compression. I mean, that drum kit is pretty tight. And what I'm going to do is, after this is over, I'm going to go ahead and post a link where you can find Mixwave drum kits. I mean, they got really great stuff. They've got, I could switch this out to Luke Holland. Take this one away. This is the Luke Holland drum kit, and it's recorded in a different place, but the setup is pretty much the same. So if I said I don't like Mario Duplantier, I'm gonna use Luke Holland. Let's see. You may have to adjust a couple of things here just because the way the piano roll is set up. Actually, this is because it's on channel 2 as opposed to channel 1. So not as heavy as the Gajira kit, but it definitely has some good pop to it. And you can kind of hear the space that it was recorded in, right? Let's see. If I wanted to switch to Thomas Pridgeon, which the Thomas Pridgeon kit I actually used on the Owen Hart. There he is, Thomas Pridgeon. Don't ask me why I don't have the library in here organized. It's just, it is what it is. I always, like, a lot of times when I'm in here, I have things to do, so I don't have a lot of time to kind of mess around and adjust things. I just go with however it is, and then I just keep it moving. So Thomas Pridgeon's taking a little bit longer to set up, just because there's a lot more that goes into his kit. His kit is absolutely amazing. I did use it on the Owen Hart theme. Let's see here. This kit has all sorts of wild stuff on it. So let's see. As it's loading up. So if I wanted to use Thomas Pridgeon, so you can hear, like, the Gajira kit is more geared towards the heavy metal. This is kind of like the heavy rock kind of thing. Pop, live funk, jazz type deal. I'm not sure I have enough time to go into the second section, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to go back to the Gajira kit just because I like the way it sounds right out of the box. So let's see. You guys get a look at all the stuff that I like to use here. Let's see. Go back. All right. You can just hear how thick that snare is. Oh, and also you can actually choose between different snares. So he's got like a bell brass, wood snare, and they all have a different color and a different personality and tone. Same thing with the toms. Actually, you can unload those if you want. So let's listen to this second section. I think it's over here at 59. So for the sake of argument, I don't even remember if I recorded it in the 140 time BPM. Yes, I did. So I just kind of switched up to like a triplet. So what I'm going to do here is I've got it set at 132 down here for this one. But I can go in and just hit 116 triplet. One of the things I do want to add is with this, I have the ability to go in. It's going to be right the first time I set it. And then if I want to add a little bit more of a live feel, every hit doesn't have to be quantized in the box. You can go in and actually move that around a little bit just to make it feel a little bit more authentic. And it helps to be a percussionist. If you are a percussionist and you know how the mechanics of moving your feet and your hands within the time frame and where the pocket is and stuff like that, that really kind of lends to it. So let's see. I really don't remember how I did this, but we're going to give it a shot. You want to make sure that you're in the editing box, because if you're up here and you try to duplicate, it's just going to duplicate the entire the entire thing. So you don't want to do that. You want to be down here. It's highlighted down here. And I'm going to solo this out first. So I believe it was 4 hits at first, or maybe 5. Yeah. And you know your snare hit's going to be on the 3. There you go. Double it up. Remember, I added this just to kind of fool around with it. I added it right to the back end of that snare hit on the 3rd section. And then, I doubled that up here. Let's see. This is very Chris Adler, Lamb of God. Shout out Chris Adler, shout out Lamb of God from my neck of the woods. And again with the actual cymbals themselves. That's always going to keep your tempo. It's a fairly simple run. It's super technical on the feet if you're doing like live kicks. And I've run into people that say, oh, your fingers of fury playing the drum loops and stuff like that. I know that anytime I program anything, that it's not a situation where it's impossible to play just because I play drums myself. So at no point am I ever going to try to create something that just makes no sense. Like, you're not going to have a bunch of people coming in and trying to replicate, or you have like a sound that sounds like 6 people playing on the drum kit at one time. No, there's one drummer, and the way I set it up is the way it would be played in real life. You just have some drummers that can do it and some that can't. I mean, there's different skill levels, right? So one more thing before I go, I did want to show, let's see. I did want to show when I was talking about kind of authenticating the sound. So let's say, for instance, and I'm going to take it back to, well, before I do that, let me play this along with the track itself. I have ADHD, so. That's basically that. And you can double it up. You can double it up again. You can change it up just a little bit towards the other end of... You can add however you want to do the fills or anything like that. But one thing I did wanted to share is we talked about quantization versus real life drumming, because we know that humans aren't always going to be completely locked into the BPM, no matter how hard you try. So let's say, for instance, we're doing, and I'm going to go back to just 116. Let's say, for instance, we want to do like a tom fill where we're hitting the toms together. Right, so it's kind of like a chin 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 chin. Sometimes people like to add kicks in there. Do this here, and this is just for the sake of the exercise. So you have your kick, you have your floor tom, you have your mid tom. So it all sounds like one hit. You can actually go in there. I would highlight, and I think of it in terms of like the flam. So a snare drummer hits the flam, your right hand is always going to hit, and then your left hand is going to hit. However you do it, if you land with your left hand first, you land with your right hand first. I land with my left hand first. So on a flam, my right hand is going to come down slightly later than my left hand. And I do the same with toms. It's just an added effect. So it, rather than a boom, 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 It's a boom, boom, boom. So you can take that, highlight your floor tom, zero in, and then just barely, you can just barely move it to the right. So instead of a one hit, you can back it out just a little bit. So it doesn't sound like much there, but in the mix, you'll hear it. And you'll hear that delay ever so slightly just to kind of give that. So I haven't gotten this set up yet to where I can interact with the chat. So I appreciate everybody being here. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm going to try to go back and look and answer any questions. I'm going to try to do this a little bit more just to kind of be interactive and show you my process. This is the first time I've done this, so bear with me until I get things in order. Tomorrow, I'm going to open up a whole brand new session, and we'll recreate the Voltron theme on the fly, all right? You guys take it easy, and we'll see you soon.